Hello, curious minds. Welcome to an exciting journey into the microscopic world of cells. Today, we are diving deep into a fundamental process called osmosis, the incredible way water moves through cell membranes. Have you ever wondered why resins swell in water, or how plants absorb water from the soil? Osmosis holds the key. We'll explore this fascinating topic across 4 levels: easy, medium, hard, and hardest, building your understanding step by step. Let's begin. Ready to uncover the basics of how water travels inside and outside cells? Let's start with the simple magic of osmosis. Osmosis is a special kind of movement, specifically for water molecules. Imagine a tiny, selective gate that's a semi-permeable membrane. This membrane is clever. It lets water molecules pass through, but it blocks larger dissolved substances like sugar or salt. The golden rule of osmosis is simple: water always moves from an area where there's a lot of water to an area where there's less water. It's like water trying to spread out and balance the concentration on both sides of the membrane. This entire process happens naturally, without the cell needing to spend any energy, making it a passive but incredibly vital phenomenon for all living things. Let's bring osmosis to life with a common example: a dry raisin. When you put a shriveled raisin into a ball of plain water, what happens? The raisin swells up and becomes plump. This is osmosis at work. Inside the raisin, there's very little water but lots of sugar. Outside, in the plain water, there's a high concentration of water. The raisin's skin acts as a semi-permeable membrane. So, water molecules from the ball rush into the raisin to balance the water concentration, causing it to swell. Similarly, when you take a long bath, your fingers and toes might get wrinkly because water from the bath enters your skin cells through osmosis. Time to check your understanding. Think about these questions. 1. How would you define osmosis in your own words? 2. What special type of membrane is absolutely necessary for osmosis to occur? And 3. Explain using the principle of osmosis why a dry raisin expands when placed in plain water. Pause here and try to answer them before moving on. Now that you've got the basics, let's explore osmosis a bit deeper. We'll look at different types of solutions and their impact on cells. At the heart of osmosis is the concept of water potential. Simply put, water potential is the potential energy of water, and water naturally moves from areas of higher water potential to areas of lower water potential. This movement is primarily driven by differences in solute concentration across a membrane. We categorize solutions into 3 types based on their solute concentration relative to a cell. First, a hypertonic solution has a lower solute concentration and thus more water than the cell. Second, an isotonic solution has the same solute concentration and water content as the cell. And third, a hypertonic solution has a higher solute concentration and therefore less water than the cell. Understanding these distinctions is key to predicting how cells will react to their environment. Animal cells, like our red blood cells, are quite delicate because they don't have a rigid cell wall. When an animal cell is placed in a hypertonic solution, water rushes into the cell, causing it to swell and eventually burst, a process called lysis. In an isotonic solution, there's no net movement of water. Water goes in and out at equal rates, so the cell maintains its normal, healthy shape. However, if an animal cell is placed in a hypertonic solution, water leaves the cell, causing it to shrink and shrivel, a process known as crenation. This is why medical intravenous fluids must always be isotonic to prevent damage to your blood cells. Plant cells, unlike animal cells, are protected by a strong, rigid cell wall outside their cell membrane. In a hypertonic solution, water enters the plant cell, and the cell membrane pushes firmly against the cell wall. The cell becomes firm or turgid. This turgidity is vital for plants, providing structural support and helping them stand upright. In an isotonic solution, there's no net water movement, and the cell becomes flaccid or limp, which can cause the plant to wilt. If a plant cell is placed in a hypertonic solution, water rapidly leaves the cell, causing the cell membrane to pull away from the cell wall. This process is called plasmolysis, and it leads to severe wilting and can ultimately kill the plant. Alright, let's test your knowledge on the medium-level concepts. 1. How do hypotonic and hypertonic solutions differ? 2. Describe what happens to a red blood cell in a hypotonic solution and explain why. 3. What does turgidity mean for a plant cell? 4. Define plasmolysis and its effect on plants. And 5. Why is it crucial for four fluids to be isotonic? Take your time to formulate your answers. Ready to dive even deeper? Let's explore the driving forces and advanced applications of osmosis, connecting it to broader biological principles. Osmotic pressure is a crucial concept in understanding water movement. It's defined as the minimum pressure required to prevent the inward flow of water across a semi-permeable membrane. Essentially, it quantifies a solution's tendency to absorb water by osmosis. A solution with a higher solute concentration will exert a greater osmotic pressure. Closely related is water potential, symbolized by psi. This is the potential energy of water relative to pure water. Pure water has a water potential of 0, and the presence of dissolved solutes always makes the water potential negative. Water always moves spontaneously from an area of higher water potential to an area of lower water potential, driving processes like water absorption in plant roots. Water potential, psi, is actually a sum of two main components. First, there's solute potential, or osmotic potential, symbolized as psi-s. This component accounts for the reduction in water potential due to dissolved solutes. It's always negative, becoming more negative with increasing solute concentration. Second, we have pressure potential, psi-p, which is the physical pressure exerted on water. In plant cells, this is often positive due to turgor pressure, where the cell membrane pushes against the cell wall. However, it can also be negative, such as the tension in xylem vessels during transpiration. The overall water potential, which determines water movement, is the sum of these two potentials, psi equals psi-s plus psi-p. Osmosis is fundamentally a type of passive transport, meaning it doesn't require the cell to expend metabolic energy. It's a specific form of diffusion, exclusively for water molecules, facilitated by a semi-permeable membrane. This differentiates it from general diffusion, which involves the movement of any substance. A fascinating application stemming from osmosis is reverse osmosis, or RO. Here, an external pressure greater than the natural osmotic pressure is applied to force water to move against its natural gradient, from a region of high solute concentration to a region of lower solute concentration. This principle is widely used in desalination plants to purify seawater, making it drinkable. Biologically, osmosis is vital for plant root water absorption, maintaining cell turgor, and crucial functions in animal kidneys and intestines. Now, for some hard-level thinking questions. 1. Elaborate on osmotic pressure and its link to solute concentration. 2. Define water potential and identify its two main constituents. 3. How does water potential govern water movement in living systems? 4. Distinguish between osmosis and general diffusion. 5. Explain the working principle of reverse osmosis and give an example of its use. 6. How does osmosis contribute to the upright structure of plants? And 7. Describe the crucial role of osmosis in the human kidney's function. Good luck! Alright, brainiacs. Prepare to explore the cutting edge of osmosis. We are talking quantitative analysis, molecular mechanisms, and complex biological regulation. This is competitive level depth. To truly grasp osmosis, we need to understand its quantitative aspects. The Van 't Hoff equation allows us to calculate osmotic pressure, pi equals ICRT. Here, pi is the osmotic pressure, I is the Venti Hoff factor, representing how many particles a solute dissociates into. For example, glucose has an I of 1, while sodium chloride has an I of 2. C is the molar concentration of the solute, R is the ideal gas constant, and T is the absolute temperature in Kelvin. This equation highlights the direct relationship between solute concentration, temperature, and the resulting osmotic pressure, providing a precise tool for predicting water movement in various solutions. Cell membranes are far more sophisticated than simple sieves. They are selectively permeable, meticulously controlling what enters and exits. While the lipid bilayer itself offers some permeability to small, uncharged molecules like water, it's not efficient enough for the rapid, high-volume water transport vital for many biological processes. This is where aquaporins come in. These are specialized integral membrane proteins that form dedicated channels exclusively for water molecules. The discovery of aquaporins by Peter Agrey, which earned him a Nobel Prize, revolutionized our understanding of water transport, explaining how tissues like kidney tubules, plant roots, and red blood cells can move water so rapidly and efficiently. Osmosis is a cornerstone of osmoregulation, the active process organisms use to maintain stable water potential and solute concentrations, crucial for overall homeostasis. In freshwater single-celled organisms like Paramecium, which constantly face water influx due to their hypotonic environment, contractile vacuoles actively pump out excess water to prevent bursting. Marine organisms, conversely, must combat water loss and often drink seawater, actively excreting excess salts. In complex terrestrial animals, the kidneys are master regulators, using intricate osmotic gradients within structures like the loop of Henle and collecting ducts to precisely reabsorb water and concentrate urine. Hormones like antidiuretic hormone, or ADH, play a critical role in fine-tuning this water reabsorption, ensuring the body's fluid balance is meticulously maintained. Beyond fundamental biology, osmosis has profound advanced applications. Forward osmosis, or FO, is an emerging technology that uses a draw solution with high osmotic pressure to pull water across a membrane, offering a lower energy alternative to reverse osmosis for desalination and wastewater treatment. In medicine, osmotic pumps are engineered to deliver drugs at a controlled, steady rate, utilizing osmotic pressure differences. Even in food preservation, the ancient techniques of salting and sugaring rely entirely on osmosis. By creating a hypotonic environment, water is drawn out of microbial cells, inhibiting their growth and preventing spoilage. Factors like concentration gradient, temperature, external pressure, membrane surface area, and the density of aquaporins all critically influence the rate of osmosis, impacting everything from industrial processes to cellular responses and specialized functions like guard cell regulation in plants. All right, prepare for our first set of 5 challenging questions. 1. Calculate the osmotic pressure of a 0.1 m glucose solution at 27 degrees Celsius using the given ideal gas constant. 2. Explain the necessity and role of aquaporins in water transport across cell membranes. 3. How do freshwater protozoa manage the constant osmotic influx of water? 4. Describe forward osmosis and its potential advantages over reverse osmosis. And 5. Elaborate on how salting preserves food, linking it to osmotic principles. Take your time, these require thoughtful answers. And now, for the final 5 questions to truly test your mastery. 6. A plant cell is in a solution with a water potential of minus 0.8 MPa. If its initial solute potential is minus 0.5 MPa and pressure potential is 0.2 MPa, what will be the net direction of water movement? Justify your answer. 7. How do mammalian kidneys use both osmosis and active transport for water and electrolyte balance? 8. Explain how the Venti Hoff factor accounts for different solute types in osmotic calculations. 9. What are some significant industrial applications of membrane processes beyond desalination that leverage osmotic principles? And 10. Critically analyze the statement, the cell membrane is semi-permeable, but its permeability to water is not uniform across all cell types. Support your argument with biological examples. Good luck! And that brings us to the end of our incredible journey through the world of osmosis. From the simple swelling of a raisin to complex kidney functions and advanced water purification, you've seen how this fundamental process underpins so much of life and technology. We hope you enjoyed exploring the easy, medium, hard, and hardest levels of this topic. For more such engaging and in-depth educational content, make sure to visit synapse.omaps.in. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for regular updates and new lessons. Keep learning, keep exploring, and stay curious. See you in the next chapter.